Ooh. Welcome to the live chat. Oh, no, I wanted that. Bring that back. Studios. Excellent connection. Hey, look at that. We got it going. Copy embedded. Copy video URL. Ends the Discord. Oop. Add everyone. Here's the link. There we go. Stay safe, friend. Alright, let's see. We got that going. Let's put that down. Put that down. Yeah. Okay. Let's just double check everything real quick. Yeah, that looks to be right. Whoops. There we go. Now I just need to get all of this over here. Need to get rid of that. I need to put this. I just want the chat. Can't I just get the chat? Alright, well, hopefully it looks good for you guys. Looks like it is. Looks like it is. Sounds like it is. Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? Looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? This looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off the bottom there. And the sides. Why is it doing that? This looks like it is. It's kind of cutting off. There's like a loop. And it's recording itself, recording itself, recording itself, and recording itself. And so it kept looping. That was funny. We're just gonna, I usually wait maybe like 5 to 10 minutes for things to, people to join up if they do. After about that, then it's go. Sometimes. Sometimes. At least I have tea. At least it's a pillow. Okay. Let's see. I think I can put that down now. Hopefully people join. If not, well, I guess we'll just kind of go with it. Let's go ahead and open up Gaea, and before anybody kind of joins in, if you're watching this after the live stream, I'm just winging it in Gaea today. There isn't a very specific thing that I'm doing. I'm just winging it, trying to play around with stuff that I think I'll like. Also, I guess I should post the link to the Discord. I'm still trying to figure all this communal stuff out, but I know I should invite people. And I should just keep one link to all of this, because I don't know if generating a new link actually kills the old one, but I guess we'll find out. I'll put it in the chat. Join the Discord. There we go. Should put that in the I guess I should put that in the actual video. Should put that in the I guess I should put that in the actual video. Can I edit this on the fly? I can. Join the Discord. So I can tell you right now, I would prefer, if anybody who joins, to please join the Discord and do the chat through the Discord, because YouTube chat doesn't update as quickly, and I can't do like live chats as easily. I can change the delay, but then I have to reduce the quality, and I'd rather have the quality high and just do the live stream chat here. That way I can answer questions and kind of go through things as I'm working. Because that's kind of like how I do live streams. I'm actually working on a project right now, and I just want to live stream so I can engage with you guys, but also work. And then I can take time to answer questions or show different techniques while the live stream happens. That way you guys can be engaged. You can ask your own questions, and then we can kind of work out solutions or workflows the best way we can together, I suppose. I'm also going to answer a few other questions that I've received in other comments in my videos. So they're not like really Gaea specific. They are mostly specific to how I operate the channel. So hopefully these will answer some questions. It's live now. Hopefully these will answer some questions. 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 Wow. Just want to make sure I've got this all set up the way it should be. Live now. Hopefully these will answer some questions. Wow. Just want to make sure I've got this all set up the way it should be. It looks like it is. Alright, well at least you guys can see like the taskbar and the main window. I don't know why it's... I used Streamlabs OBS in the past and it worked just fine, but it's center on screen. There we go. And can we just stretch to screen or fill screen? Which one is it? Fill the screen? I guess that'll work. At least it's centered and it fits. All right. So I think that's good. We could probably start now. We can start. If people join, that's cool. If not, hopefully you guys can chat later. I'm gonna butcher your name if I try to say anything. If I try to say your name, I'm sorry. I can't pronounce names, even English names, or more appropriately common names that are around me. I can say Bill, Billy, Ted, and adventure. So, all right. So let's. I'll try to keep both chats up to the best of my ability while I'm working through things, but I have to keep an eye on YouTube as well as the Discord chat because I think people are going to be communicating on both as I'm streaming. If they don't, then like I said, that's cool. Hopefully you guys watch it later. So let's go ahead and open up Gaea here, and this is the latest Bleeding Edge version of Gaea. So if you don't already have it, or you don't want to, that's okay. That's funny. It says Dax Panty there when it's licensed to me. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to say my name now, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. This is the latest 1.2.1.5, I believe. Yeah, right here. 1.2.1 professional. Okay, hold on. We gotta reopen it. Yeah, 1.2.1.5. So this is the latest Bleeding Edge that came out just a couple days ago. So if you want to follow along or kind of play around while I'm playing around and doing things, that's the version I'm using if you want to stay on the same version. So, and like I said earlier, this is just going to be me kind of poking around in Gaea and seeing what I can create. It's for a project, but they didn't really care what things looked like as long as it just looked cool. Like they didn't have a specific mountain range that they wanted to copy, or like they didn't need rivers or anything like that. They just said make us a landscape and make it look cool, and I was like, all right, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm just going to be pulling up the chat every now and then. The Discord chat would be best because I'll get alerted if you guys talk on the Discord chat, assuming that I'm not set to away. It's live on, yeah, it's saying it's live on YouTube. You can watch here. I'm online, so live and streaming. So I should be getting messages in the Discord chat. It's better than on YouTube because I get alerted on the Discord rather than on YouTube. I have to actually open up and poke at it and see. So let's, after all that startup stuff, let's go ahead and get started here. So I was thinking a really cool landscape to have would be one that is like nice and just natural on one side, but kind of jagged and broken up on the other. So it's just like getting hounded by the elements on one side more than the other. And I was thinking the best way to do that would probably be with a radial gradient. Or you can do like two linear gradients together. There's a couple ways you can do it, but my mind is just going through a lot of different ways. But I'll show you both ways to do it. So we have a linear gradient here, and the direction is at 0 degrees, and we have another one here. We can make that one, what would it be, 180? Yeah. And then right here we can do a combine. So let's go ahead and combine these together. And what this will do is we can combine them in a way where we get both to appear the way they need to, but we can also get a really cool look to it. So if you just combine them with a blend, you're not going to get what you want, as you can see here. So you're going to want to play with some of these other options. You can get some cool looks like this bow right here with the screen. But I think what I'm going to want is max. Yeah, like that. And then see how it's making like this V. You can use this to create like a valley if you want. But then you could do something like an invert. So now you have this instead. So it's like the top of like a roof of a house or something. Now from here, it's not going to look all that interesting because it's going to be more of like a cliff face, I suppose, which is fine. They didn't necessarily say that the landscape had to be like an actual landscape. Like it's just going to be used for visualization purposes for them. So if they don't like it, I'll just come back and make another one. It'll be super simple. But in this one, we have two sides. So we can have a side that is constantly hit by the elements and another side that's not. Doesn't matter which side, we'll just kind of poke at it and see what we come up with. So we do have the two gradients here, and we have, just so it's easier for you guys to follow along, I'll just do this to them. There we go. And then we have this combine. The combine is a max, and I just inverted it. So now we have this instead of this. This is cool too. You can do a lot of stuff with that. All right. Sorry if I clear my throat a lot. For some reason, I'm not like asthmatic or anything. Like I can breathe just fine, but it seems like allergies, regardless of the season, affect me in one way or another. All right, and to kind of build this up a little bit more, so you can see it looks nice. It's not a bad look to it, but we can build this up a little bit. Maybe we can do like an equalizer like that. So now we have more of a point. We could probably do a gain. So we can. Oh, gain will give us an interesting little look there too. So maybe not necessarily gain. Oh, that's the bias. The gain will just push it up higher after a while. As you can see here, it's not like becoming more pointy. It's just moving it up on the grid, which is, that's fine. If you wanted to decrease the gain to make it more flat to the grid like this, you can. So if you had a hard time blending landscapes because one was higher above the grid than the other one, you can use bias and gain to kind of help you with that. I wouldn't default to that necessarily because you can get some bad artifacts on your landscape if you're not careful. So, but in this case, it'll be just fine. I just want to make sure that I'm right on the grid, which at 0 I am. Okay, so I'm right there on the grid. So I think the equalizer is what I wanted. There we go. So now it's super pointy. Now from here, there's not a whole lot of data to work with because it's just two flat planes together. So to add some data to it, we could use a displacement, or better yet, we could use warp. Warp would be better in this case. Warp is not only faster than displacement, but you have a lot more options that you can choose from using warp. So we can use like Perlin, or we can use a whole bunch of Voronoi options too to give us a whole bunch of cool looks, like this one right there. Now we have like a cliff face here and here. We got a whole bunch of different options to choose from. If we just use a regular displacement node, it would give us some data to work with, but it's not only is it slower, but it doesn't really introduce really cool little figures to it. So this one's also good. I like this one. It's kind of rocky and rugged. We can probably do a mixture of a couple of them. So we can do this one. I don't like this. Let's do a couple things. Let's try, was it this one? Yeah, this one. And let's take another warp, and let's apply that. And you see how we have like a modulator here? We can use this modulator part of the warp to get a much different look. So we could use something like multifractal right here, and we can use that as the modulator. So instead of choosing something like in here, the warp sources, we can use this modulation. Let's just find out what we want though, because these are the exact same. Hold on a sec. I'm going to throw in a separate warp that I don't copy real quick. And just so you guys know, this is kind of how I go around playing in Gaea anyways, on a day-to-day. So when I'm playing in Gaea and figuring things out, this is exactly what I do. I just try a whole bunch of different things. It's okay to have like a workflow that you go through that is familiar, but it's really good to try new things in different ways. So if you find yourself doing the same thing in Gaea and it's just kind of stale, we have all these nodes over here you can do pretty much anything to your heart's desire, essentially. Yeah, let's... Okay, there we go. Modulation right here. There we go. You can see how that multifractal is now modulating this. And then we can even change the direction of the modulation. So it affects, hopefully, just one side. Oops. This to be more above. There we go. Don't really have a whole lot of shadows in there, but that's fine. Yeah, see, the multifractal doesn't really have a whole bunch of directionality to it. So we're just going to deal with that a bit. We don't want to modulate it a whole lot. Just, I think we're good right there. And this iterative stuff, it's just going to increase how many times that modulation appears. Or I guess this noise appears over the whole thing. And you can also change the source here, even with the modulation applied. But I'm going to stick with Perlin. And maybe tone down the roughness a tad bit, because I don't want too much of that Perlin noise coming in. I want it mostly being the multifractal. You can normalize that too if you wanted. Alright, there we go. So let's combine these back together. That way we get, so the reason why I did that is because this one gave us these really cool structures like this, but then I wanted to add some extra noise to it, so that's when I came, that's why I did that. So now we just got to find a good way to mix them, and I think max is going to be, yeah, max is going to be good. So now we have like this talus effect almost coming off the rocks there, and you can increase it all the way, but I wouldn't. I would just increase it enough where that noise starts jutting through without affecting that peak too much. And it gives us some smooth slopes as well as some jagged slopes. And I think what we're going to do after that is we're going to use Apex. Apex might destroy the effect that we had there, but again, I'm just playing around with things. So we're going to do Slant, and you can see how it's kind of breaking it up a little bit. That's fine. We still have the noise in there. We still have tons of noise in there. So now we don't get too bad at stretching, and let's just kind of play around with it until we find a good look. Oops. I just want some smooth faces, but not too many. Like this side has a lot, but that's because of the angle. There, so then we got some noise in there, and even a little bit here. We have more noise on this side than this side. Okay. Alright, now what are we going to do here? Oops, what's going on here? What are you doing? What? I did not tell you to be created. Alright. So we got our apex in there. Let's try something else here. Like I said, we got a whole bunch of stuff we can play with, so let's try Recurve, just for the funsies of it. That'll make it so it looks like there's been some erosion to the rocks, making it look sharp, which might be cool. And you can see again, this side is getting affected more than this side, so it seems like this is the side we're going to be working with. Let's try Omni. That way it affects it uniformly across the whole thing. That might not do it. Duo is going to be two-sided, obviously. That side, I don't think that's going to be what we want. Let's just do mono. And we'll stick with that for the time being. Now for the fun part, let's do some erosion here. Some erosion. I'm just going to use some basic erosion here. Not too much, not too little, just the right amount. That's too much. Let's see what happens if we just use one of the presets. Slope A5. We might not even use this landscape, to be honest. I like how that recurve makes it look like there's like snow up here that's being like there's just a lot of snow and it's really soft on the edges because of that recurve. And we still have rocky points and rocky cliff faces, but then we have soft tops right here, so it's kind of simulating snow a little bit rather than using a snow node or the snowfall node. You're kind of simulating it in a different way. Let's take the rock softness down a bit. And let's take the duration down. It's probably being eroded a little bit too much there. There we go. Might not even keep this landscape. That's not a bad look, but I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Even though we got this far, I'm still not feeling it. Could be cool. Maybe if we texture it, it could be cool. Okay, let's do reduce the down cutting, not that much. And let's reduce the strength just a bit. There we go. Now let's try and bring back a little more of that rock that I wanted. And let's try... We're not done processing this. Did my mouse just die? My mouse just died. Shouldn't. It's plugged in. What's going on here? Let's try a Fractal Terrace. I know we already eroded and whatnot, but sometimes it's okay to erode and then add terraces and then erode again. And we're just going to affect everything here the same way. We're going to use an advanced one, and let's turn up this. Yeah, we're going to turn up the spacing a tad bit, maybe there. And we want some strong terraces. Shape. Now, let's see how these edges here are getting way too stretched, and right here. We don't want them to be stretched that much. They are going to be stretched inevitably, but we don't want them that much. And then when you do the advanced one, you'll get these advanced features here, and you just kind of play with them. You can see what they do, but you can like change the thickness uniformity and the hardness uniformity, which I think is the most important part, because then you can get really cool looking features like this, where they're kind of more uniform. It looks more like a canyon cliff face, but you kind of just gotta be careful with it. I think that's kind of cool. Let's add another erosion to this just to see what happens. We might not even keep this one. Again, like I said, we might not even keep this one. Let's just do the mesa or terraces. All this soft sedimentation down here, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Delete. That's when you go, oh man. Why would he do that? Let me tell you why. Because I didn't like the way it looked. Let's go with worse lands. Now, in other tutorials that I've made, I've said how much I like worse lands. I do. I love worse lands. It's one of my favorite nodes. And the reason why is because I gotta add another node before it updates, because I clicked on that instead of the right thing. Is because you can do small here. There we go. I just changed that. And what that does is it creates a nice floor for you to work with. And you can turn the scale way up, and you can see how the details get a little bit more flat. And then you could also increase those details by increasing the height. In this case, I have it too large. I got to turn the scale down. And then we can increase the height. You can see how that makes those details kind of stick up a little bit more. But it's really good for creating floors, and that's because a lot of scenes that I see people make in Gaea, they'll have this really cool mountain range, and I'm guilty of this too, so it's not like I'm talking down to anybody. I'm guilty of this exact same thing. They'll have this mountain range that looks really nice, and then they'll have this bottom area that's just totally flat, like detailless. Worse is good for that because you can combine things using the max setting in a combiner, and it combines beautifully with pretty much everything. And then you go in with like a mask node and you mask around where everything's being combined, and then you add just a slight bit of erosion and it blends it all together. So I guess we're gonna do that real quick, I suppose. We don't need it to be too complex because it's just a floor. And we'll turn down the height just a bit. And we're also going to take this chaos and we're going to turn the chaos down. We don't need a whole lot of chaos here. It's just your bare minimum floor. Okay. So I haven't played with range in Worse Lands put together. So let's give that a go real quick. This is our range. We don't want high altitude, we want with base. And with base, essentially what it does, if you do high altitude, this is like what you'll use for like background mountain ranges, essentially. If you do with base, it'll put in the ground layer here, the ground floor, and then make it look like you are up in the mountains a bit more, rather than far away from them. And it's also good for close-ups. So I like using with base when I need to have a specific mountain feature that I want, especially if I'm using range. And in this case, we're going to want to increase the chaos, but not that much. Probably about that much. About where it was before. And of course, you can just play with the seed until you find something you like. In this case, I kind of like this is okay. Let's make sure we look at everything going from north. And let's combine. Now we're just combining for the time being to see how well we can bring in that floor. See, it's kind of coming up over here in this area, but not enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to go to gain, and let's increase the gain just a tad bit. That was a little too much. Don't need that much. There we go. All right. So then we got a floor, and we have our mountain range. That looks okay. We actually might bring this down even more, maybe 5%. It's 4, it's 5. There we go. 5 is not enough. All right, let's do a middle ground then. So before it was 9, let's do 7. Okay, we're gonna stick with that. So now that we have this kind of combined together the way we want it to, we can actually start processing these two separately. So let's go with the range first, and let's add some stuff in here to make it more interesting than just your default range. You can usually do that with adjustments or filters, or you can even use the look dev stuff, which is just fine. But in this case, I think I'm going to try some filters. Let's do Apex again. I just like Apex in general. It's a good node. We don't want to use the distance here. It's almost always going to give you flat ground and push everything else up, kind of like in a linear gradient. So I'm going to use slant. And slant will give us some hard-looking rocks that we can further work with later, especially if we put a fold node in. Fold is awesome. I just like fold so much. Okay, we're going to keep the angle there. And speaking of fold, let's go ahead with a fold. So that's what we went from, this is what we have now. Fold brings in some details on those slopes, but now we actually have some nice steep slopes that kind of go into a point. And if you wanted, you can just play with all of these, but I think the default is good because all I wanted to do was introduce some detail into these areas, and Fold did that. We might need to play with a couple of these things actually. No. Yeah, midpoint's not going to do much here. It's always nice to check, but it's not going to do much there. What I wanted to do was essentially bring back some of the... I wanted to add some detail to those slopes, but I wanted to make them a little more flat, and we can reprocess it again with another apex. But I think that's going to work fine. Let's combine that into there. Yeah, there we go. So now we got some folded, steeper slopes here than the original. So if we were to go back to the original, that's what we had before. We just kind of had these kind of blandish peaks, but now we have far more interesting peaks that actually look like good mountain peaks. Alright. What else can we do here? We gotta erode this a bit more. I'm glad they put fold in a look dev rather than erosion, because it wasn't really eroding things. it didn't quite erode. It made things look cool, like a look dev does, but it didn't quite erode, so it makes sense for it to not be in the erosion. And again, we're just going to go with like a preset here because I don't need to be too scientific or calculative of it. And with that fold, and then erosion, we can kind of blend things together a bit more. But we're going to have to go in here and blend it overall again, just so it blends nicely with the ground. I like how we have a peak ridge here and here. I like this ridge and this ridge. It's looking pretty good. Oh no! No weird sound. Also, thank you, Andrew. I am humbled by that, actually. Like, I don't think I'm extraordinarily talented when it comes to landscapes. I just like playing around with things mostly, and I like teaching and communicating with people a lot more, actually. So, but if anybody likes them, then good. I would like to have people like my artwork as well. So, I hope you guys aren't having any weird sound issues. If anybody is still around in the chat, let me know if it sounds weird. I hope it's not. I have to keep my mic kind of off to the side so I don't block my screen, and it's not a very sensitive mic, so hopefully it sounds better now. Okay, so let's go back. And am I getting alerted on Discord? Is anybody chatting on Discord? No. Okay. Probably still works, just nobody is either viewing or chatting. So, alright. So we got our floor, we got our peaks. I want to do something more than just that. We could probably try doing a warp to the ground. I know I didn't want to make it too chaotic with the Worstlands, which already has a lot of warp in it. But if I can add a warp to this, you can see how this is the original. You can see how the warp kind of gives you these stretching patterns. I wonder if I can just kind of control the overall look of it a little bit better with the Voronoi options and get something that I like. So I do like this. And then we can be a little bit more selective in how our floor looks using a different warp node than the built-in. Thinking, anyways. Oh wow. That's an interesting look. don't like it. Not in this case, anyways. So we're just going to go back to 1. Okay. So we went kind of from this to this, which is, I think, is fine. So let's combine that. Yeah, you can see how that gives it a little bit more interesting features to kind of work with. So I need to get some drink of tea. I have tea here. It's mint green tea. It's pretty good. I actually stole it from my wife. Bless her soul. Now let's do an erosion pass on the ground now. So let's do an erosion. And we're just going to do very soft, gentle erosion. So yeah, it doesn't really do much, but it adds, it kind of blends things a little bit better together. If we go back and just look at this, you can see here, we have like these harsh cutoffs. And now we don't. It just makes it a little bit more soft. Not too much. Now we have to do an erosion pass on this to make this overall look like it belongs together. And a good way to do that is, if you don't want to use the erosion node, like in this case, how it kind of defeats or kills all of the detail that you had, instead of using the erosion node, and there's far too much stuff here to select with the mask node to blend the edges, I like to use the sediment node for the erosion. And that won't, it looks like it's doing the same thing as the erosion node, but in this case, we can drastically reduce the strength and the amount. We can be a lot more selective here. And you can even add a drift if you wanted. I don't really add drift, so. Alright, so then all we have to do is just make sure that our changes are actually impacting it. So the power needs to kind of go up a bit, and the amount needs to go up a little bit, or a lot of it. So that was before, this is after. We still have a lot of good detail down here. It's not completely flat, and it kind of blended all the seams together, as you can see. The seams are less harsh than before. Now, you might be wondering, well, we had a whole bunch of good detail before in this, or even in this, or this. How do we add detail back in without recombining? It's very simple. You want to be selective in this case. You want to select where you want to apply this kind of detail. You don't want to do it all over the place, because then it won't look right. So the first thing you're going to do is put in a surface node. The surface node, you can use a rough texture or a rocky texture, and you're going to attach that to the last node of your landscape. And then from here, you're going to want to use a height node, and the height node will be your mask. There we go. And you're just going to connect it just like that. Now, if I can take a second just to talk about why you would hook the node structure up like this. I've had a couple people ask me, like, I don't know exactly when to, this is what they're saying, they don't know exactly when to put a height node as your last, connected to your last node, like in this case the sediment, and then plug it into your mask option on the node that you want it to go to. And how do you know that's going to affect the height there for that specific node? Well, it's super simple. The height node has to get data from something. That can be from any one of these nodes. So you can attach it to this fold node if you want it. It doesn't matter. Like, it just needs to get data from something to work with. The reason why I, in most cases, attach it to the last node in my chain right here for my landscape is because I want to keep it simple. It has no specific reason whatsoever. That, and because it's the last node after the combined node, so I want it to be selecting everything here. I don't want it to just select based on the fold, because if I do it just based on the fold or on the apex, it's only going to select these areas of the landscape for this part of the landscape for the combined node. Hopefully that makes sense. If I use the sediment here, I can even do it on the combine, but that wouldn't really make much sense because, I mean, I'm just complicating things. If I do it on the sediment, I'm going to be selecting everything that's combined, which is what I want to do. And then what I'm telling Gaea to do is take this height data that I'm selecting from here and using it to place where I need to put my surface texture. And that's why the surface texture has a mask input, because the height is just a mask input. If you right click on the last node and you pin it as underlay, you can use it to, you can use that underlay to kind of visualize your selection. So what I want to do with this height node is select the very bottom parts. So I'm going to reduce the minimum value to 0 because I don't need a minimum value. I'm going to be selecting everything from the ground to maybe this area right here. So if I want to select the ground, I go to 0. If I don't want to select the ground, I increase it. And you can see the max value is the white selection here, and the minimum value is the dark selection, the black selection. And that tells Gaea that I don't want to select any of the ground or these parts of the mountain in these areas, but I do want to select the top parts. So I don't want to do that in this case. I want to select the floor. So I'm going to take the minimum value and I'm going to reduce it drastically, and then I'm going to select just maybe that much. So now I'm selecting the floor. And the cool thing is that Gaea will let you normalize that. And if you look at this, it's a good selection, but it's kind of weak. If I normalize it, I can increase the max here. And it'll be, the percentages here will make a little more sense here, or that's being portrayed here. So you can see here, let me turn the fall off, the fall off down. You can see here, this is where we're making the most stark selection at about 45%. So we can decrease this. That way you're working with better numbers than what you would have before, which would have just created a bunch of confusion. Like, I'm selecting the floors, but I have to reduce the max value super low to places that you normally wouldn't select. Just normalize it. It normalizes the selection, gives you a stronger mask, and you can increase or decrease the fall off a bit better with the normalizations applied. Now, you don't always want to have the normalization applied because it might not always make sense, but just keep that in mind. If you find yourself, if you find that you have really weak masks, just turn on normalization and then increase or decrease the max value and the min value until you get what you want again. That's all it's really doing. So there's our floor. And maybe that was probably too convoluted, but yeah, I said it. Now I'm telling Gaea to pump this mask based on the selection height from these other nodes into the surface. So now when I go here and I look down at my floor, I change this to rocky. I want a rocky floor. You can see how it's only selecting that part. Let's go back to rough. You can see the major change there. Let's go back to rocky. Now we're only selecting those parts. So let's increase the strength a bit. So you can see 0 strength, max strength. I'm only selecting that part of the landscape. Super, super easy. Alright, let's go to rough. Maybe rough might be better. In this case, I want to reduce the coverage, maybe increase the density. Maybe decrease the density. Increase the strength. Yeah, there we go. That makes it just a tad bit more rough. There we go. So we went from that to that. That gave us just a bit more detail in there. Let's increase this to maybe 1K, and let's see if people are responding to the audio. No. Adamania. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I hope you are no longer having sound issues. Hopefully these will answer some questions. I'm listening to this for a second. Just want to make sure I've got this all set up the way it should be. It looks like it is. Alright, well, sounds good on mine. So, hopefully it fixed for you. Hopefully it's just like a YouTube processing thing. Okay, so we're going to take the strength down just a tad bit. Actually, I don't need it that high. There we go. So now we went from having like a weak floor that had a good detail in it to having a stronger floor, which has better detail. And we did that with a single node that doesn't add a whole lot of processing time. That's what the surface node was made for. And you can also use the surface node to bring in detail on slopes, which we are going to do right now. So in this case, I don't care what slopes we add it to, so I'm not going to do a height selection. I'm just going to do a slope selection. But you can combine multiple selections together. So what I'm trying to say is you can use a height node to tell Gaea at what specific height you want to select slopes to. So if I wanted to, I could throw in a height node here, attach it here, select just the top part, so 90 degrees to maybe 70, 85, can't do that. We have to go far enough down to where we're actually selecting something. Wow, okay. So maybe right in this area. So that'll be the height. And then at this height, I want to use this height as a mask for the slope. And now I'm only selecting the height of the slopes at that point. I'm not selecting the slopes down here. I'm just selecting the slopes up here. So you can do that. And that might make sense in a lot of cases, especially when you have rocky areas that you need to select more of. Or maybe you want snow in specific areas that you don't want to generate like a snowfall node for, which can be time consuming on a lot of builds. So you can do a height and a slope, and then you can process from there. But in this case, I don't really care about that. I just want the slope because I don't care what slopes I'm selecting in this point for this specific case. So I'm going to select a maximum slope of 90, and I'm going to do just the steepest parts. So let's do like 80. Yeah, I think 80 will do. And then I'm just going to decrease the fall off. I might have to redo some selections here. But I just want essentially what those rock cliff faces are. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe that. There we go. And now that's selecting really steep slopes. And then you can do, if I can talk right, you can do a surface for that. And I like using a rocky surface texture for this kind of workflow. So let's make that rocky. There we go. We actually want that to be connected there, and then this connected to the mask. There we go. Now that's correct. Should be correct. We can do it here. That might be better. Let's try that. Don't know why it's doing that. Why are you doing that? Let's remove that. Let's try again. We'll do rocky based on that slope. There we go. That's better. All right. So now let's just kind of go back and forth here until we find what we want. So that's our, let's look at the slope here. This is where we're selecting. You can see here, it's kind of changing a bit, but not too much yet. So let's increase the strength of this rocky surface texture. We can do quite a bit. You want to be careful with this because we are building at a lower resolution. I think Gaea's going to probably crash here. Been getting that a lot in this latest Bleeding Edge. If you make too many changes, crashes. I mean, it's still a program being built. A lot of people run into a lot of crashes actually, but I have been lucky and not ran into a whole lot. But this latest build, I ran into more than usual. And we'll wait for it to respond. Hopefully it'll respond. Sometimes it'll re-respond, re-respond. Sometimes it'll respawn. And then I can just stop the engine and start again, and I don't have to start from scratch. And you should always probably save your scene as often as possible. So like in this case, it responded again. So we'll do live stream build. There we go. And then we'll just resuspend the engine, and then normally that works. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's increase this to 2K. So like I was saying before, we were so rudely interrupted by the unresponsiveness. You want to be careful with surfacer. You don't want to increase it a ton at lower resolutions, because it is a resolution-dependent node, like most nodes in Gaea. So if you increase your resolution after doing a huge increase in the strength here, it might not look good. And it's also the same thing when you're using just the roughness right here. But as you can see here, we have a lot of good little small details coming in. Even over here, looks good. You got like rocks coming down the rock face, cliff faces. Lots of small good details. So we went from essentially this, which is fine on its own, to this, which added a bunch of small little details. The surface nodes are extremely important for that. But again, don't overdo them. You don't want to overdo them. So another node that kind of plays nicely with the surface nodes is the rock map. So let's throw in the rock map here. And you can also do this based on a mask. And in this case, we're going to do the slope mask right here. Boom. And I find that the default is totally fine. But sometimes upping the coverage gives you a good result as well. But the defaults here tend to work pretty well. And then you can use this rock map as your starting point for texturing. So we can go to a sub map. I don't want this live stream to be super long either, so that's why I'm kind of coming to an end on the build. So I still got to throw this in the Cinema 4D and try to render something with it, whether it's like a background mountain range or something. I got to do something with it, and I don't want this to take forever. So let's go ahead and pin this last surface right here as underlay. There we go. There's a rock map, there's a sat map, and we're just going to find some stuff that looks good. Let's do a mixer here almost immediately. And if any of you have seen my coloring techniques on my other videos, I'm just doing the exact same thing as I normally would, except this time I started with a rock map rather than a texture, and I usually start with the texture. Coloring is one of those things where I don't feel the need to really change it up the way I normally do it, but I'm always open to suggestions of doing things differently. And I do texture things differently in Gaea from time to time, especially when I'm just kind of playing around and figuring out how to do things, like different things. But the texture workflow that I have, I think, is really good in general. I don't think it's the best. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that have better texturing workflows than what I have. I haven't seen any. I just don't actually actively look for them, but they probably exist, and I probably do things super inefficiently, but it works for what I need, and I like the outcomes usually. So I do my texturing workflow this way, and you're about to see. I also like mode C. It gives you a really stark mask. And I find that when I'm trying to work with rocky crevices or surfaces or whatever, mode C gives me a really good texture map to work with. So that's why I'm picking mode C here. I don't know the difference between each mode. I did at one point, but they've changed. So at least the verbiage for it changed. So I wouldn't be able to tell you what the differences are anymore. At one point I used to know. I don't anymore. And then let's throw in a set map here. The set map I chose for this one, I chose for no other reason other than it was there. I'm probably going to go back to that and change it. Let's choose a dark and light map. There we go. Yeah, that's good. So we do have like in Utah anyways, we do have a lot of mountains up in northern Utah that have like this lighter rock at tops of peaks where there's a lot of talus. So you don't want it to appear, at least in this case, if I were to use this, you don't want all of that white rock and sedimentation to just appear everywhere. You would want to use this specific sat map for more of a talus deposit. And if I were to do like a slope, So let's do a slope. Yeah, let's do slope. Right there. And this slope, we want to select where a lot of deposits would be. That's going to be kind of at higher values, not totally up and down, but pretty close. We want to just select some of these lower areas there. We don't want to select a really steep, like it's going to be steep, but not like up and down steep, kind of like this. And then you can see how it's kind of coming in here where there would be talus. And then you can do a height here. And connect the height to the mask of the slope. And let's select just the top parts, and we're going to have to probably decrease this a bit again. Again, you can normalize it if it's something that'll make selections easier. Let's do, that's probably too far. Yeah, it's too far. Maybe about right there. And then we can do this slope into the sat map right there. Actually, we can do this. Let's go there, and then let's do this. There. There we go. And now we have just these top parts selected where there would be like sediment runoff and talus. And let's just blend that together. There, now it's coming through. Or you can even use max if you wanted. Do max. Probably won't be much of a difference here. But as you can see, we have the talus, the white rock and talus sheets coming down at those areas. We might need to change the slope a bit more. Looks like we are selecting, yeah, we might have to bring the slope down maybe to 59 and maybe there. But I'm going on a tangent because I actually don't want that look anyways. But you would select those areas and then use that white rock as like that white like talus sheet as the selection with the height and slope. So, but I don't want this anyways. That's kind of more of a tangent that you can do that, and you can pile these up as much as you want as long as you're working from the bottom up kind of thing. So you want to select areas that you don't that you're not going to cover up throughout the workflow. So in this case, I might not want the rock map to come first. I might want this texture to come first. That's why I usually start with a texture. But in any case, you want your very last detail in my workflow to be your smallest selection, because then you start working out broadly, and then you kind of taper it down to a point where your last color selection is the smallest detail. That's because you don't want to take your brush and broadly stroke over everything. You'll cover up details that you don't want to cover up. So we want to be a little more broad at first. So in this case, maybe I want my texture to come first instead of my rock. Maybe I got ahead of myself. So luckily, my workflow allows you to adjust it that way, and then you can work on the fly. So normally I start with like my grass and rocks and my dirt. So I tend to stick with these darker brownish colors with a little bit of green in them. I feel like those make up a pretty good ground, pretty good base to start with. I need them to be probably more like this. Yeah, this looks a little more accurate. And then let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So in this case, it might be the rock map. I don't know. Let's throw in a data here, a data node. And the data node I'm probably going to want to use is probably not even a data node. Let's do the sediment. So we got sediments here. Let's bring this over to a auto level. I'm using an auto level for my erosion masks because they tend to be soft. They tend to not be contrasty enough. Sediment one, as you can see here, looks like it's going to be fine, actually. So if I do an equalize on this, it's a little bit too much. But we are doing an auto level, and this is what it looks like without the auto level and with the auto level. But here's the cool thing. It should work, but because I have this set to an auto level, I can reduce the strength. It doesn't look like it's going to be doing it. Alright, that's probably because the auto level actually has no effect on it. We could also do instead of an auto level, we can do a bias and gain. Let's try that real quick. Let's reduce the intensity. There we go. That's more of what I was wanting to go with. Alright, so the bias and gain will work for this case. Let's decrease the intensity and maybe increase the bias. We'll give a little bit more of a contrast here. There we go. Now these areas that it's selecting go all the way to the peak. I might not want to select everything to the peak. So what we'll do is we'll take a height, another height selection. We'll apply that to this sediment map. And then we'll take this and put it there. And notice I'm putting this in the mask slot, not the actual output, but the mask. And we'll take this and we'll want to select everything from there down. Let's decrease this. And let's see if that's doing what we need it to do. A little bit too much. Let's increase it again. Let's go up a little bit more. It's kind of like just a bounce back and forth kind of thing, see what's going on. For some reason, I can't get this to work. I had it working before. What did I do? Did I do it this way? How did I have this going before? Probably using it that way. Okay, there we go. So this height selection here, I'm going to go this route. So I have the output going up to the sediment, and then I have the sediment mask coming down into the mask of the height. That way I can see what's happening. So in this case, I'm not selecting the very top parts for the sedimentation. I'm only selecting where I want it to select. So let's go to 6 degrees. I think that'll be good. And now when we go up to here, the bias and gain should be applying only from where I was selecting with the height up. So in this case, I'm not going all the way to the peak. So if I were to take this and put that back to default, and this back to default, you can see here, now it's not going all the way to the very top. That makes it just a tad bit more manageable. So let's go here. You can be extremely selective in things in Gaea, so you can kind of just work around certain things. Okay, let's throw a sat map in here. And for this sedimentation, I'm going to want to check a color that is similar, maybe slightly lighter than my first texture. So in this case, I'm using, what is that, 66? So we'll do that. And then we'll be selective here in the sat map editor. So instead of using the same thing, how we're getting like this darker color on the sides, which will probably inevitably be covered up, we want it to be more of this lighter color. So if we want that, we just take this slider, drop it down so it covers up most of that light stuff, and then take away the green so it's not tinting it in a weird way. We want to introduce a little bit more of the tanner stuff, but not too much. That might work. So when you're looking at this, ignore all the greener things that you see, like the light gray green. We're looking at these areas right here where it's white, and I'll show you why, because that was our selection. So we'll go a mixer, we'll combine it that way, and we're going to combine it based on this bias and gain. And now we're going to take our max. We might do something else here, but we'll take max for now and increase it all the way. There we go. Now it's a very small amount of detail there, but we went from this, come on, there we go, to this. It's very small. So we're going to want to either change the way it blends or change our selection. And usually it's just whatever looks good. I think max is what I'm going to want, but I'm just going to change the bias gain here. So we'll change the, what was it, the bias goes down. Yeah. No, the bias goes up. There we go. Now it's coming closer to the edges. Let's take the intensity up. Yeah, there we go. Super intense. All right. There we go. Now there's more of a big change. Very kind of still hard to see because the colors are super similar. But now there's a bigger change. So we can go back into the bias and gain, and let's increase the strength just a bit more. What this comes down to is wanting to be able to control our mask. Usually an auto equalize works pretty well, but let's go to blend, and let's work our way through some of these blending options. You might have to change the ratio. That one looks good. Screen. Screen is good. Screen brings out that white vein that I wanted to see a little bit more of. And again, that's another small detail, so we might have to come back and put this somewhere else in the chain, but that will do for now. Alright, so let's take a slope selection. And we're going to select very small slopes here. Maybe even smaller than that. And maybe a little bit smaller. 5 degrees. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so that's just the very shallowest of slopes. And let's go ahead and add a sat map to this as well. And I'm just going to introduce some green. So let's change this to green, and let's see what it defaults to. No, don't like. Don't like. That might be good. Now what I'm looking at isn't everything here. I'm looking at these shallow slopes, like right here. So I'm ignoring all the other colors, except for these darker colors in these areas. It's a little bit too gray, too bland. That's still too much. That one might do. It's more like a sand. I can adjust that so I can be like right here to maybe here. Yeah, I actually might go with this. Let's try this real quick. So let's take another mixer and plop that down. And in a lot of cases, we're just going to take the mask for the mixer and apply it to the slope. And then in this case, we can use blend, or we can do a 100% blend. If we wanted to bring in everything, we can do max. And max will be good if we wanted to bring in our underlying color a bit more. In this case, we don't want to do max because we do want a bit more green. Max might actually not work for once here. Huh. Let's go blend, and we'll do kind of maybe a 60% blend. Because that is still slightly too green. 65 might do. Yeah, because if you look at this, we have some of the underlying colors coming in a bit more, and it kind of breaks up that really dark green. Okay, so those are the very low slopes. Very, very low. 5 degrees is all that is. So let's adjust this a bit more. That rock map, it looks like it's going to go further and further down the line. Let's bring in another slope here. And by no means am I doing this because of like using this other slope because I wanted the complete opposite. I just want to try something out. So we're going to make the minimum with no fall off, or maybe 5 degrees there. And we'll take the minimum up to maybe 10. And then the maximum will go to maybe 20. There we go. So we have this slope that we used, and now we're using this slope. Maybe we'll take the minimum down to 5. And no, we gotta go higher. Let's go to 15. So we'll do it in terms of 5-degree increments. What we want to do is we essentially don't want to select what we already selected here. And you can see here we almost have it. So we might have to go up to 20. Stop auto-updating before I unclick. And then we'll go to maybe 25 here. Let's see. So almost. Close enough. All right. So let's throw in another sat map. And we're going to do another green color. And in this case, we did 34. And we're going to do the same one. Green. Actually, this one might be good. I want not as dark colors, though. Maybe right there. And let's throw a mixer in. And let's do it based on the slope. And from here, we got to figure out what we want to do. Do we want more blend or max? What do we want? Do we even want this, is the question. If we go to max, then we don't get any of that color. That's better. So let's look in these darker areas that we had selected. So up here, you kind of see how we have this lighter color and then we have this darker color. That's what I'm going for. But if we do a max blend, it overshadows just a tad bit. So let's bring it down to maybe 75. Yeah, that's fine. There. All right. So now what we're going to do, and this might change again, but now what we're going to do is we're going to throw in a texture, another texture. And this time I'm going to stick with node A, or mode A. And we're going to do this based on just height. So where did we have our lowest height selection? Because we can reuse that. That one height selection can drive a couple selections. Let's go ahead and save when we can. I think it's going to probably crash again. See if anybody responded. Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, I think what I'm thinking YouTube is having some issues with live streaming or something, because it shouldn't. I have no audio playing right now, it's just me talking. So there's nothing playing in the background. I'm not like watching the live stream or anything like that. So I'm thinking it's just YouTube being funky. Could be my settings. Is it not weird for you now though? That's the main question. That's for Adamania. As long as it's not funky now, because you said was, so I'm thinking that it was, but now it's not. It could be another thing is it could be I have the latency set to low. So I don't know. I still don't understand how YouTube does its latency and audio stuff, but as long as it's good now, good. Now, hopefully I'm not boring you guys. If anybody here is new and hasn't joined the Discord, you can do that. I put the link to the Discord above. It's like the second comment that I put, and it's in the description too. So if you wanted to join, you can do it there, and then I can actually hear you guys chatting in the Discord. It'll alert me, and then I won't go forever without seeing your guys' chats. So I apologize if I don't get to your chats, but I do try to look at it from here and there. Oh, sweet. Welcome to the Discord. I do have a live stream chat in that Discord. It's if you go to general, that's where you'll start out. It's just 3 below general. And then you can join there and you can chat in there. Nice, welcome. Yeah, so now I can read your guys' chats, and there it'll alert me if I don't have Discord up as the main window, and then I'll just I'll get a little ding and it'll tell me what's up. So then I can actually see that window easier anyways, because the YouTube chat window for the live stream is really small on my screen, and I have to like peer at it a little bit. Alright, so let's continue with this. We got our texture here. Now what we need to do is see where our height selection was for just the lowest heights. That's for our bias gain. We don't want that. I think this is the one we wanted. So let's go ahead and put that down into there. Welcome. I hope you guys are enjoying the live stream. I haven't done one in a long time, but welcome. I want to turn off the live stream. It should tell me. Let's see. Where did that chat during live streams? Yeah. It came up and said it was in like live stream mode or something like that. I want to turn that off because I'm pretty sure that tells me that alerts won't be generated because I'm not hearing them. And I think I turned that off the first time I used this for the live stream chats. But a quick breakdown, since you guys are new to the Discord. It's open for anything and anyone, and it might look like there's a lot there, but we mostly just talk in the Gaea, the Cinema 4D, and the Octane and General chats. But you are welcome to post in any of them, just as long as you keep the discussion to those chat topics. Give the PWN rules a quick look at. It's to kind of summarize the rules. It just comes down to just not being an asshole and staying on topic. It's what I'm trying to run on this Discord is mainly a 3D modeling, landscaping, and rendering Discord that we can all just kind of talk with and communicate on and share ideas. So I don't want there to be a lot of political or religious conversations. Those are the two topics that I can spend all day talking about with a lot of people, but it has to be in the proper setting, and this Discord is not that setting. So I try really hard to keep that down. I've only had to block one person because of it, but I told them numerous times to quit. I mean, I told them for like a couple months to stop, and I had to keep deleting his posts. And I'm pretty sure he was just trolling me, but the thing is that he was a 3D modeler, and he has watched my tutorials and commented on my tutorials in the past. So I know that he wasn't just a troller to troll. He was actually in the industry, but he just didn't like being told to not talk politically. And the thing is that he was talking politically on things that I agreed with. But when it comes to moderating my Discord, I don't care if I agree with you. If it's not on topic, I'm not going to allow it. So, and I think everything is well categorized, and as long as you stick to the topic, it's fine by me. I don't really care. With that said, though, I also don't really like politically engaged renderings or things like that. Like if you want to make a political render, by all means, you have all the freedoms in the world to do that, but I just don't want to see it on my Discord. Because again, it just comes down to destroying the original like feeling and theme that I have going for the Discord. So you can make any renders you want. You can even put nudes up there if you want. I don't care as long as it's classy. I even say that in the rules. Like, if I know a lot of people do 3D renders where their models are naked, that's fine. I'm totally down for some artistic nudity. But porn is not welcome. I don't want porn. So just follow the rules, you'll be fine. Alright, so this texture selects just the lowest parts, which is what I want. So let's go ahead and add a set map to this. And I'm going to show you guys something that, especially for newer people that might be watching this, who are now just getting engaged, one thing that you really want to take note of in your set maps is that you can actually increase or decrease the noise. It starts at a 0, so you can mostly just increase it, but the noise will help break up patterns that you might not want, like really harsh patterns, and you'll get that a lot when you're combining maps together. And you'll say you have like crop circles that you're trying to like farmer crop circles that you're trying to color. You want those crop circles to stand out, so you'll use a set map with a like your mask of your crop circles to color them, but you don't want everything around it to be really sharp and contrasty. You want them to blend a bit more. So to do that, you use the post-processing here, and as you see here, let's go ahead and zoom in. We have like these darker details here that, you know, they may or may not blend in really well. We'll have to find out. Or this really harsh line here. But you can increase the noise. I usually do like 2 to 3%, but you can go high if you want. And what that does is it just introduces noise and it breaks it up. So now those harsh lines or really harsh like figures or selections are kind of blended out, I guess, not in, but out, and it makes things look just a tad bit nicer. So let's add another mixer here, and we're going to do that based on this texture. And what I'm hoping to do with this is blend in a bit more greenery down in the bottom areas, like that. So these mountains are a bit more green. We have these foothills. It's not the most perfect blend between the mountains and the ground here, but I do like the way this blends. And hopefully that all makes sense with the Discord too. I'm really hoping that anybody who joins is open-minded and willing to talk about a multitude of topics, but yeah, just keep it to 3D stuff and you'll be fine. If you wanted a Discord where we can converse on otherworldly topics, then I'm down for that too, but just so you know, I am not mainstream on a lot of things, and I don't say that to be kind of like a hipster, but there are a lot of things that I have high personal opinions on, and I just keep them to myself. But I will talk with you about it. As long as you're willing to be professional and mature about it, I will talk with pretty much anything about anybody. Any topic about, you know, any time of day, just as long as you're, you know, mature about it, I don't really care. Alright, we're going to do a slope selection here again, and we're going to select that. And what we want to do here is do the opposite again. We're going to do the slope selection that we did kind of like for the rock map, which I think was this one. That was just a slope. So we want a height selection. I think this one will be perfect. I want to select, hold on a sec. I don't want that. I do want this one, but I don't want this specific one. I want what this is already selecting. So I'll just copy and paste it, and we'll just select the sediment there. No, we won't. We'll select the surface there. And to keep things organized, this slope will move over, and this height will come down. And this height will go in there. And let's just make sure that these are all organized. There we go. Alright, so there's our height. We want to select these top parts, and I only want to select the slopes because this is where I'm going to bring in a darker rock material. And we'll mix in a rock map here to kind of give the selections a bit of a contrast, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So we'll do a, come on, sat map. And let's do a dark rock. Something, we might do a dark rock. It just depends on how it looks. Let's do a little less gray in there. A little more purple. That might do. Alright, let's bring in another mixer. And let's do it based on that slope. And let's start seeing how we can blend this together. I'm not entirely sure how that is. It looks like it's doing the complete opposite from what I wanted it to do. The slope should be selecting, that's why. The slope needs to be changed. I totally did not change the slope. Okay. Very top parts of steep slopes. 80 degrees to 90 degrees. That's 10 degrees of slope selection. That ought to do it. Alright. Let's do max. Maybe not max. We're just going to find a blend that we like at 100%. A whiter rock, a light white rock here would probably do really well. Could look good. But I did want a darker rock. We might have to change the base layer around a bit right here to not be so light. But we'll stick with that for the time being, because now what we're going to do is readjust our slope. I want to select these parts too. So we might need to increase that. And that could be because of our, we probably want to select even less slope. Yeah, there we go. It's maybe 75. Yeah, let's try that. Trial and error. I didn't want to select the whole thing, I just wanted to select other parts of it. So it kind of gets broken up a bit. You can see right here, looks really good. Okay. Now let's add our rock map here. What do we use there? This might be a good contrast. Let's go for that first. Now when it comes to the actual build in Corona, I might have to postpone that because it's the live stream's been going on for a minute, but I'll make a video on what I do with it for sure. So I don't want to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and then not do it with you guys. So let's do max. Look in these areas. Nope. Max did not do it. Let's go through these blending options and just see if there's anything else that we can kind of use. You can see how that's breaking up that selection. It's really good. Because you don't want a nice, not nice, but you don't want a uniform look. You kind of want to play around with different things. Having a rock map, you can select those steep slopes, and it adds just enough of a selection to it that it breaks up the monotony and gives you a slightly different look, like that. That would even be good for that talus that I was talking about earlier. I think the blend is just blend or minimum is going to be probably the best ones. I'll just go with blend. Blend works. Now we got these really nice dark slope areas. Now we got to do a bit more with this. There's still a lot of gray in there. But I think this will be fine for the time being. I'm going to save it. Let's just go check out chats. Nothing there. Next time I do the live stream, I'll just make sure that I turn off the live stream thing so I actually get alerted. I didn't do it this time, but this will look good for the time being. At 2K, that's good. Yeah. So this will be some background mountains in a scene. So I'll have it, I don't know which way it'll point, probably this way. I guess I'll have to see how it looks in the render or in the scene itself when we get it going. But these will be like background mountains, and I'll have like foreground objects, and these will be the background, and hopefully it'll look good. So anyways, this live stream has been going on for a while. I really wanted to put this into Cinema 4D with Corona render, but I will make another video. It might not be a live stream, but I'll make another video where I will import this and export it, show you what I'm using for exports, and then import it into Corona. I might even just do a few more tweaks on the coloring before I do that, but I'll show you what I do if I do that, so that way you guys aren't lost and missing things. If I do export any of this, it's going to be as raw proportional, and I will probably do 4K, just so you guys know. Anyways, thanks for chiming in. All the new guys that are on the Discord, welcome. I appreciate you joining. Feel free to post whenever you want. You can message me directly for anything if you want, but I do have if you go to the Discord, I do have a requests here. So you can put in tutorial requests here or anything else. If you need like specific builds that you need to learn, you can post them here. I'll try to figure them out. I am behind on requests, and I'm trying to get to them, but I have to kind of prioritize certain things. And then, in any case, I will see you guys in the next video or the next live stream, and I will be on the Discord, and I'll chat with you guys there. Thank you for chiming in, and I'll see you later.